Hi, I'm Mike Graber. I'm going to be talking about women's suffrage. During the Progressive Era, women demanded to be seen as full and equal citizens of the United States, and one of the major aspects that women pushed for during this time was the right to vote. It's kind of odd because at this time women had major roles in uh, the war effort. They had political seats. They weren't technically allowed to vote, though, until the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920. Some states did allow women to vote before this, however, and women were seen as protectors of the home during this time, and they played a major role in the consumer life because they did the majority of the shopping, and also women started to work outside the home by getting office jobs and becoming telephone operators. Activists used this idea to show how important women were, and they argued that if they were this big of a part of society, that they should get to vote, I mean, like anyone else, and publicly voice their opinions. Some working women independently organized with middle class women to improve their job equality, but suffrage movements alone got the most attention through larger organizations, which I'll be talking about in a minute. Starting in 1848, women petitioned to get an amendment passed for women to vote, but it took it about 70 years before they actually got it passed. Um, they wanted to pass reform legislation, but they realized that they needed to be able to vote to do this. Um, I believe that the large improvements in social status for women played a huge role when it comes to them receiving rights such as voting and like job equality and stuff. During the Progressive Era, women went from being uh, poor stay-at-home moms, widows. A lot of them, colored women, really suffered. Uh, and then they went to being a huge part in the workforce. They started to rise in ranks, with some becoming uh, prestigious jobs such as lawyers, doctors, journalists, scientists. They went to college, got degrees. The phrase "new woman" represent young, smart, talented women who started to work towards things like the reform and suffrage movement. This is where the tides began to change because women were becoming much more educated and powerful, especially as they gained in numbers with getting certain associations and organizations in the beginning of the 20th century. The National American Suffrage Association, led by Carrie Chapman Catt, campaigned to become a franchise for women in the states. And at the same time, they're trying to get an amendment passed so you couldn't be denied the right to vote based on sex anywhere in all states. The National Women's Party was led by Alice Paul, and she used a more intense, radical strategy to get suffrage by protesting at the White House in hopes to get President Woodrow Wilson's attention. I'm gonna talk a little more about Alice Paul because I thought it was kind of cool how it voted and yeah, motivated she was to the movement. Alice Paul was a college-educated woman who started her involvement in the suffrage movement in um, Britain and was even arrested several times over there. While in jail, Alice went on a hunger strike and had to be force-fed. She was very motivated to get equality for women everywhere. And in 1910, she moved back to the States and immediately joined the women's suffrage movement over here. Um, and she got her PhD at Pennsylvania State University, or University of Pennsylvania. And Alice was originally a part of the National American Suffrage Association, but she was more into being a little more upfront and radical, so she was dissatisfied by how calm their policies were. So she formed the National Women's Party so that she could take the movement into her own hands. She paid the price, though, for her radical actions by being arrested for protesting at the White House a couple times. I think it was in like October and November of 1917. After women were granted the right to vote in 1920, Alice Paul continued to fight for women until she died in 1977 in her in the same town she was born in, which is Morristown, New Jersey. Women, along with other minorities, have faced inequality in many forms throughout American history, but with the help of devoted women activists and activists for all minority groups, such as Alice Paul, um, they eventually achieved their goals. And now today they are a lot better off than they were 60, 70 years ago. And that's all I have. Thank you.